I only wish the mainstream media would cover this stuff. It'd be healthier for the nation. It'd be healthier. You know what I mean? A lot of the narrative the mainstream media pushes is a narrative that protects the C-suite, the corporate class. And I want to go over this this Substack. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Hopefully you're celebrating. We haven't got to celebrate the past few years. My wife has to work. And to all the people who had to work today, I salute you. I understand. I know how it feels. And a lot of working Americans have to sacrifice holidays. And I feel like, more and more we've seen that. So if you get to celebrate, let me just say this. If you get to celebrate the holiday, if you don't have to work, if you can, see your family, if you can afford that, be thankful for that, I look forward to the day I could see my family again. It's been years. So if you get to, if you live close or you got to travel, you just be grateful. Just be grateful. Be grateful for those, what may seem as ordinary occurrences for you. Just be grateful. Because, there's people who lost their parents when they were young. There's people who have to work. There's people who can't, take the time off. They don't have the time to take off. So they have to work. There's people that, even if they couldn't work, they can't afford to go. There's all sorts of things happening outside of maybe what is normal to you. So consider that when you're saying grace and telling people what you're thankful for. Maybe just be thankful that you can go to a family supper and go outside and go, God, I can't take these people. I'm glad I only do it once a year. Be thankful for that moment. Nah, I had Thanksgivings last month. There we go. Happy Thanksgiving for those of us alone. Yep, there we go. And to all the people, that's the other thing. My brother's been homeless for close to 10 years. So everybody who's, maybe doesn't have a home or is alone or, like I was saying, don't have family, just be grateful. That's all. You can always find something. You always find something. I'm just grateful that, I'm grateful for a lot of things. So, this holiday, what's up? What's up, everybody? How you doing, Kevin? Good to see you, J666. Why don't you bring him in your house? I've tried. The story of my brother is a long and tumultuous one, but at this point, we don't know where he is. We don't know if he's alive or not. Last year, I think he was alive. Sometimes it's not that easy, and when the country that you live in does not care about the youth surviving, if you have parents, if you're a young one and you got parents and you're on their insurance and something goes wrong and you can utilize that, that's great. But for people without parents, like my brother, something goes wrong, you're just fucked. And then those problems snowball. And without, because everything costs money in this country, including healthcare, and without some kind of help, some kind of social net, with none of that in place, things progressively get worse. And then in a lot of this country, they like to criminalize homelessness, which is a bastardly deed. So just be grateful, That's what it's about, man. That's what it's about. All right. But there is a very interesting article that I spent a lot of time reading today. A lot of time with the kids. I'm very grateful for my wife. She works so fucking hard, and she shouldn't have to. Nurses shouldn't have to work this hard just to survive. But I was sharing some of the things I was reading because I feel like it's very important for people to understand this. Now, I've known this for quite a while. Um, oh, wait. That's a clipped version. That's not it. I think this is in order. But I linked this article down in the description. It's a Substack of, who's this dude? How did I even find this? Michael Green, Substack. Part 1, My Life is a Lie, How a Broken Benchmark Quietly Broke America. And he's going to talk, and this article is going to address the poverty line here in America. Now, the YouTube channel Second Thought, I want to say like 5 years ago now, the YouTube channel Second Thought, it might even be older than 5 years, did a video about the poverty line in America and how the poverty line's at like 30,000 or something, right? If you make 30,000 or less a year, you're in poverty, which is a bullshit abstract number. It's a number that has not kept up with anything, inflation, the times, greedflation, price gouging, price fixing, all the delicacies and accoutrements that come with American capitalism. So it just hasn't, it hasn't kept up with that. But I'm no mathematician. I'm no this dude. What's his name? I'm no Michael Green, who he talks about markets usually. Like the first part of this article that I did not take pictures of, he's talking about markets, like what's Meta doing? What's this? So he studies markets. But then we get into the second part, how a broken benchmark quietly broke America. And he says, I've spent my career distrusting the obvious. Markets, liquidity, factor models. None of these ever felt self-evident to me. Markets are mechanisms of price clearing. Mechanisms have parameters. Parameters distort outcomes. This is the lens through which I learned to see everything. Find the parameter, find the distortion, find the opportunity. So this is a numbers guy. You know what I mean? And this isn't even the right part. Well, how did I take photos of this? Did I do it backwards? Maybe I did it backwards. Hold on. Shit. Or maybe I just took pictures of it. All right. So anyways, I didn't get the beginning of it, but this is what I'm going to throw up for you first, and I'll get you there. But I've always needed an economist. I don't think that's what he is, but someone who can break down the numbers and turn the math of the poverty line that qualifies you as living in poverty in America to an actual, real, modern day number. Because I've been saying this for fuck a decade or more. I'm also super grateful for my kids, man. I'm so grateful. I fucking love my kids. So grateful. So grateful that I get that time with them, because it's precious. You never get it back, For all you rising grinders, you never get the time. When your kids are little, enjoy it all, because then they grow, and they don't stop growing. Well, they'll stop at some point, unless you give birth to the Hulk. Does he forever grow? Anyways, but this dude, I felt it was very important today. Today, the day of all the days, because, there's people who, oh, no, this isn't it. Here we go. There's people in MAGA that are even like, hey, listen, man, we got the technology. We can see what we paid last year for Thanksgiving and this year. And this shouldn't be controversial. Like, I hate that this turns political. But again, the cult leader on one side is like, he takes offense to anything. He's like offended that, some newspaper or magazine called him old. They were like, damn, this dude's old. And he's like, I'm going to sue you. They're like, really? We can't say 80-year-old's old? He's hypersensitive. So, the cult base, the cult followers follow his lead. They follow his example. But there's a lot of people who are like, listen, this is just basic shit, man. I did my shopping for Thanksgiving dinner this week and went back to my Kroger app to pull up the receipt for the exact same dinner last Thanksgiving. 261 last year, 312 this year. Mr. President, this is not what I voted for. So that's even dumb moron who thought a casino bankrupting grifter was gonna, lower the price of shit. I can't tell you anything, ma'am, besides like, this is what you voted for. If you just saw his history, if you just understood, his business acumen, you'd know like that you voted for him to loot American taxpayers and enrich himself. So hate to break to you, this is exactly what you voted for. You're just too dumb to see it. That's all. You should say, Mr. President, I was too stupid to understand when you said you don't care about me. I just need your vote. You were being honest. I thought you were honest about everything and joking about that. He was lying about everything else and honest about that. So, and this, hey, what's up, Crush? Good to see you. Bandito, what's up? What's up, Bandito? Good to see everybody. I hope you guys are having a blessed day. I hope you get to see family. I hope you have family. For somebody who doesn't get to see my family and had lost my family when I was young, holidays haven't been easy since, let's say, 2003. let's say 2003-ish. This is the last fucking holiday that wasn't a heartbreaker. So holidays ain't that great, man. But I highly encourage you to read what I linked down below. That's why I left this Substack there for you, because this is so important. This is so important to understand and to be able to, share this information. Again, this is the Substack of Michael Green, I think it is. And I'm going to start reading from How a Broken Benchmark Quietly Broke America. There was one number I had somehow never interrogated, one number that I simply accepted, the way a child accepts gravity. And that's how most Americans, especially the mainstream media, they just treat certain things as like laws of gravity, laws of nature. Like, this is just how it is. And it's like, bullshit. The law of gravity is one of them laws of nature, is that how it is. Everything else here in America is some fucking probably rich old white dude wrote it up, passed it as law, and it's all make-believe. It's all made up, folks. And this guy, Michael Green, says, there was one thing that I accepted, simply accepted, the way a child accepts gravity, the poverty line. I don't know why, it seemed apolitical. Actuarial, so a cool word, actuarial fact calculated by serious people in government offices. A line someone else drew decades ago that we use to define who is poor, who is middle class, and who deserves help. It was infrastructure, invisible, unquestioned, foundational. This guy's a good writer too, man. This week, while trying to understand why the American middle class feels poorer each year despite healthy GDP growth and low unemployment, by the way, that the second thought channel, where he tackled the poverty line and how it's like an arbitrary number from like the 60s. I think he talks about how like GDP and low unemployment are irrelevant to the fucking real economy. They are 100% irrelevant, especially low unemployment, because it's like after a certain amount of time, people can't file for unemployment. After a certain amount of time, like, they stop reporting. So you have a big number that's unreported. I came across a sentence buried in a research paper. Quote, the U.S. poverty line is calculated as 3 times the cost of a minimum food diet in 1963, adjusted for inflation. I read it again, 3 times the minimum food budget. I felt sick. The measurement failure, that's what this part's called. The formula was developed by Molly Orshansky, an economist at the Social Security Administration. In 1963, she observed that families spent roughly 1/3 of their income on groceries. Some pricing data was hard to come by for many items. Example, housing. If you could calculate a minimum adequate food budget at the grocery store, you could multiply by 3 and establish a poverty line. Orshansky was careful about what she was measuring. In her January 1965 article, she presented the poverty threshold as a measure of income inadequacy. Not enough adequacy. If it is not possible to state unequivocally how much is enough, it should be possible to assert with confidence how much on average is too little. She was drawing a floor, a line below which families were clearly in crisis. For 1963, that floor made sense. Housing was relatively cheap. A family could rent a decent apartment or buy a home on a single income, as we've discussed. Healthcare was provided by employers and cost relatively little, in quotes. Blue Cross coverage averaged $10 a month. Childcare didn't really exist as a market. Mothers stayed home, families helped, or neighbors who likely had someone home watched each other's kids. Cars were affordable. Also, that line right there in this, when I heard neighbors helped watch each other's kids, when the market is filled with renters because no one can buy a home, you don't get to build those kind of communities anymore. If everybody's renting and moving out and getting priced out and they can't fucking afford a home to invest in and, live, you don't build those communities. If you're nostalgic for the Stranger Things version of like riding your bike to your neighbor's house, you're nostalgic for a pre-fucking peak crumbling capitalist society where people could live on a single income and buy a home and fucking not worry about like, ah, shit, our corporate landlords are all price fixing the houses in this area, so everybody's got to leave again. But when I read that sentence, I was like, yeah. Cars were affordable if prone to breakdowns. With few luxury frills, the neighborhood kids could Votech could fix most problems when they did. College tuition could be covered with a summer job. Retirement meant a pension income, not a pile of 401k assets you had to fund yourself. Orshansky's food times 3 formula was crude, but as a crisis threshold, a measure of too little, it roughly corresponded to reality. A family spending 1/3 of its income on food would spend the other 2/3 on everything else, and those proportions more or less worked. Below that line, you were in genuine crisis. Above it, you had a fighting chance. But everything changed between 1963 and 2024. Housing costs exploded. Healthcare became the largest household expense for many families. Employer coverage shrank while deductibles grew. Childcare became a market, and that market became ruinously expensive. College went from affordable to crippling. Transportation costs rose as cities sprawled and public transit withered under government neglect. The labor model shifted. A second income became mandatory to maintain the standard of living that one income formerly provided. But a second income meant childcare became mandatory, which meant 2 cars became mandatory. Or maybe you'd simply be, quote, asking for a lot generationally speaking, because living near your parents helps to defray those childcare costs. And I just want to comment on that. I think we're almost at this point. That's another line that really stuck out to me. You'd simply be, quote, asking for a lot of generationally speaking, because living near your parents helps to defray those childcare costs. Just so you know, I don't judge people, and I think people should be very, very grateful if you have parents or family nearby. My parents died when I was very young. My children will never and have never met their grandparents. And there are people that will chirp at me about shit that take advantage or don't see that I see people with parents privileged. Like when these people come into my chat and they'll say shit like, oh, you're living in your mom's basement. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. Unless you're Nick Fuentes saying, I'd take away women's right to vote. Then you're a shitbag and you shouldn't be able to live in your mom's basement, which he literally did. He was doing his misogynist podcast from his mom's basement, that lucky prick. But when I talk about privilege, I think so many people are normalized to like, oh, you just have parents, and if you need to go get a second job, your parents can step in or your family can step in. It's like, I got no one. I've had nobody. I've always done it on my own and figured it out some fucking how. So that to me is a luxury and a privilege I've never been able to afford. I just haven't. And people, I think, take for granted. And I know that for a fact because there was a dude back when it was Twitter who was arguing with me on Twitter. And he said, something to the effect of like, it's not my fault if you're a moron and you moved out of your parents' home before you could afford to buy a house. And I was like, what about people without parents? What about the people who have been homeless, living in a fucking car because you don't have a place to go. You don't have that luxury. And he said to me, who doesn't have parents? And I thought, this conversation is over. You've lived such a privileged life. You can't comprehend that there are people, there are orphanages. Have you never seen Batman? So again, some of these lines hit me differently. And some lines, I hope you read this down in the description. Some will stand out to you. So there's a reason why I've understood this shit for fucking decades, man. This ain't preaching to the choir, but he so eloquently puts that America's got you tricked into thinking 30,000 is poverty level. Surprise, his number is 140,000. That's, if you make less than 140,000 in America, you're a poverty level. And we all know that. We just don't have the mainstream media reaffirming that, corporations letting us know that, because that puts a whole lot of people in poverty level. And that's the numbers of it. This guy's like, shit, this should be apolitical. You know, this is about a surviving and thriving economy. This is about your citizens, you know, your neighbors. So this isn't about fucking MAGA or Kamala. Like, don't do that shit. This is about like your neighbors, man. All right, back to this. The composition of household spending transformed completely. In 2024, food at home is no longer 33% of household spending. For most families, it's like 5 to 7. Housing now consumes 35 to 45%. Remember when they said you should spend a third, 30% of your income on housing? Yeah, not happening. 35 to 45%. Healthcare takes 15 to 25%. Childcare for families with young children can eat 20 to 40%. I mean, that's the other part of this. If you have kids and you're trying to get a second job, like I live this, you know, I can't, there aren't jobs that pay me enough to afford childcare. So you're just fucked. Like, these are real issues that people experience every day, and somehow people want to make it like, don't tie that to Trump. And it's like, guys, this is fucking bigger than him. I hate to break it to you. This is about how America has failed. This is a failed nation. But there's hope. There's hope. That's why I'm sharing this with you. There is hope. Once you understand this, you can't go back in time and understand this. Then you have to live with this knowledge. And if G.I. Joe taught us anything, knowing is half the battle. If you keep Orshansky's logic, if you maintain her principle that poverty could be defined by the inverse of food's budget share, but update the food share to reflect today's reality, then the multiplier is no longer 3. It becomes 16. Which means if you measured income inadequacy today the way Orshansky measured it, in 1963, the threshold for a family of 4 wouldn't be 31,000. It'd be somewhere between 130,000 and 150,000. And remember, Orshansky was only trying to define too little. She was identifying crisis, not sufficiency. If the crisis threshold, the floor below which families cannot function, is honestly updated to current spending patterns, it lands at 140,000. What does that tell you about the 31,000 line we still use? What does that tell you? That's what he asks, and I fucking love that. What does that tell you about the 31,000 poverty line we still use today? Well, he answers it. It tells you we are measuring starvation. Quote, an imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics. Plutarch. Sounds like an alien name, Plutarch. The real math of survival. The official poverty line for a family of 4 in 2024 is 31,000. The median household income is roughly 80,000. We have been told implicitly that a family earning 80,000 is doing fine, safely above poverty, solidly middle class, perhaps comfortable. But Orshansky's crisis threshold was calculated today using her own methodology. That 80,000 family would be living in deep poverty, which most of us are. But fucking Instagram got you pretending. I wanted to see what would happen if I ignored the official stats and simply calculated the cost of living. I built a basic needs budget for a family of 4, 2 earners, 2 kids, no vacations, no Netflix, no luxury, just the participation tickets required to hold a job and raise kids in 2024. using conservative national average data. We're going to go to the next. Let's go to the next slide. Can you take me to the next slide? Thank you. Childcare, housing, food, transportation. You see all this shit. Okay. Required net income, 118,000. Add federal state FICA taxes of roughly 18.5, and you arrive at the required gross income of $36,000. This is Orshansky's too little threshold, updated honestly. This is the floor, he says. The single largest line item isn't housing, it's childcare. This is the trap. To reach the median income of 80,000, most families require two earners. But the moment you add a second earner to chase that income, you trigger the childcare expense. I totally get that. Totally get it. We're also in the trap where once I lost my career, I lost my car, which is another fucking trap. You know, go look up how many cars are under $30,000 now. Under 30,000. Go look it up. Go try to find out how many are under 30,000, and then go look up how many are over 70. You know, oh, imagine that, man. Imagine that. If one parent stays home, the income drops to 40, 50,000, well below what's needed to survive. If both parents work to hit 100, they hand over 32,000 to a daycare center. The second earner isn't working for a vacation or a boat. The second earner is working to pay the stranger watching their children so they can go to work and clear 1 to 2K extra a month. It's a closed loop. The housing lie, or why the model is optimistic. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide? Whoops. Next slide. Here we are. Here we are. I love that I'm talking to myself. Asking for the next slide. This is brilliant. This is brilliant work, you. By the way, I'm Rob. Hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I do a live stream. Sometimes I talk about the news, and sometimes I go, I read a really fascinating thing I'd like to share with you. I like to share. So hit subscribe. I'm trying to turn this to a second income. I'm trying to be as capitalist as I can, even though I don't want to be. I hate capitalism. I just think people should be able to exist, chase a dream, write poetry, paint a picture, you know. But unfortunately, if you do that in America and you're not like hyper good at it, you die. You die. You just die. I think that could be fixed. I think we have the technology. We certainly have the money. They're talking about one guy having $1 trillion. Imagine that. If 36 of them had that, they could get us out of debt just on their own. Anyways, before I keep reading, I would like to share with you something else. This was really interesting, and it goes along with this story, okay? This was on r/inflation on Reddit. It says, Big Mac to minimum wage ratio shows how much wage is not keeping up with inflation for a lot of people. I'm just going to mishmash all this stuff so you can walk away. If I don't know if you have family over, if you saw your family or seeing your family, but you are armed with information, man. It's powerful. That's why the government wants to defund education. They don't want you armed with this information. That's why the mainstream media won't talk about this. And this dude does it simply. I think this is from Instagram. I'm not on Instagram, but I found it on Reddit. And I want to play this for you because this dude breaks it down real quick. And I've talked about this. You know, again, another thing, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I've known this for a while. I've shared this with you for a while. But I like the way how this dude breaks it down. The Big Mac Index. You know, all those Republicans go, oh, you want to pay $20 a Big Mac? Now it has to be 20. Can't be 10 anymore because it's 10 down the street from me.
You guys ever seen this chart? This is the Big Mac Index. It shows what the minimum wage was in 1980 versus 2022. It shows how many Big Macs you could buy in 1980 versus now. 1980, the minimum wage was $3.10. The Big Mac was 50 cents. And that means you can get 6.2 Big Macs per hour of work. Now, in 2022, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, and the Big Mac is $8. So you can buy 0.9 of a Big Mac for 1 hour of work. But just to be clear, the minimum wage shouldn't go up, right? Inflation isn't out of control, right? We just have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. The older generations could buy 6 times the amount of food for the same amount of work that we do today. And they say that we're lazy. In order for us to have the same buying power as people in the 80s, the minimum wage would have to be $51 an hour.
Oh, did you hear that, guys? I know if you're a subscriber, you're smiling to yourself right now because I consistently say the minimum wage should be $66 an hour. And those who have been propagandized by Donald Trump and his Fox News propaganda arm like Joe Rogan and shit, they shit their pants. They freak out. But this is just basic math, guys. This is just basic math. That guy just said to have the buying power of someone in 1980, the minimum wage should be $51. And here I'll do you one better. This was in 2022. We're in 2025. Minimum wage is still what it is, and a Big Mac is $2 more. So you could probably just do the math and come out to $66 an hour. The maths, guys. It's your feelings and it's the propaganda constantly. That's why I said the mainstream media is not going to tell this to you. But you can easily do this on your own. If you don't, you can look this up on your own time. But I really wanted to break that down for you, that in 1980, because this is how my mind works with math. When I do an hour's worth of work, I understand what I can buy and what I can't. That's how I budget. And I understand that with minimum wage, you can hardly buy shit. But the thing is it used to not be like that. Raise your hand if you're old enough to remember. In 1980, you could buy 6 Big Macs with 1 hour of minimum wage. You could also buy your home, have health care, and fucking get schooling too. Now you can buy, in 2025, I'd say you could buy 0.7 of a Big Mac. I didn't do the math, but he said 0.9, so I'm just going to go down to, in 2022, 0.9. Now it's probably 0.7 of a Big Mac, because the Big Mac by me is $9.99. And the federal minimum wage is $7.25. So it's just fucking crazy, man. Crazy that people will fight this, because you're included in this. You'll only do better if the economy gets better. If people have money, they can spend it wherever you work. It all has to go around, folks. When it gets siphoned off to Elon Musk, he's not spending it all. And he's not creating jobs, guys. Our tax money is propping up those companies. But I love when people, break it down very simple for others, because that's just what it is, folks. I hate to break it to you. I fucking hate to break it to you. All right, let's go back to this, the housing lie. Critics will immediately argue that I'm cherry-picking expensive cities. They will say 136,000 is for San Francisco or Manhattan, not real America. Nobody lives in real America, man. We all live in fake America. So let's look at, quote, real America. We're down here. The model above allocates $23,000 per year for housing. That breaks down to $1,900 per month. This is the number that serious economists use to tell you that you're doing fine. In my last piece, Are You an American?, I analyzed a modest starter home, which turned out to be in Caldwell, New Jersey, the kind of place a Teamster could afford to live in 1955. I went to Zillow to see what the cost to live in the same town, where if you don't have a down payment and are forced to rent, there are exactly 7 2-bedroom plus units available in the entire town. The cheapest rents for $2,700 a month. This is so depressing. That's a 777 monthly gap between the model and the reality. That's $9,000 a year in post-tax money. To cover that gap, you need to earn an additional $12,000 to $13,000 in gross salary. So when I say the real poverty line is $140,000, this guy's being conservative. Next slide. Next slide. Here we go. Oh, we even got to do next slide. Next slide. Oh, we're almost at the next slide. Let's just go to the next slide. I'm reading too fast. My apologies. Hit subscribe, and know I put this information. New Jersey in the house. Jersey in the house. Jersey in the house. See, that's the thing. That makes me sad today, because I used to go down to New York and New Jersey for Thanksgiving and see family when my mom was alive. Oh, it makes me so sad. And I feel so sad because I want my kids to experience that. But when you just got to keep working. My wife's working all day today. I wish they just treated nurses with the respect that they feigned to have during the pandemic. Get for-profit out of the healthcare system. Okay, so when I say the real poverty line is 140,000, I'm being conservative. I'm using optimistic national average housing assumptions. If we plug in the actual cost of living in the zip codes where the jobs are, where the rent is 2,700, not 1,900, the threshold pushes past 160,000. The market isn't just expensive, it's broken. 7 units available in a town of thousands. That's not a market, that's a shortage masquerading as an auction. And it's also fake scarcity. We've seen those stories, you know, only 7 towns available. Yeah, because a bunch of people are owning the other ones and holding them off the market. Like, this is capitalism demands fake scarcity. It demands it. If you don't believe me, we have enough food to feed every American. But 1 in 5 kids in America goes hungry every night. Food insecure. It's probably higher now. That's an old number. That's a few years old. But if you go to any Walmart, Kroger's, Publix, Stop and Suck, Market Basket, if you go to any of these places at the end of the night and look in their dumpster, there is food being thrown away. There were huge stories about food being thrown away, destroyed, when people were going hungry. Because the market demands scarcity. If they gave that food to everybody, who's going to make their profits for those CEOs? Who's going to make the stock go up? They demand scarcity. They must demolish, destroy the food. So instead of you not going hungry, not starving, you come and buy it. And most of the time you buy it and the date goes bad anyways. You notice that lately? You know how fucking bad the dates have been lately? Jesus. Okay. Market isn't expensive, it's broken. And that 2,700 rent check buys you zero equity. Oh shit. In the 1950s, the monthly housing cost was a forced savings account that built generational wealth. Today, it's a subscription fee for a roof. You're paying a premium to stand still. Everything is subscription fees. They want you to rent everything. America, for rent. You'll never own, you'll always rent. And Jeff Bezos gets to decide what movies you get to see every month. The hedonic lie. Okay, here we are. Economists will look at my 140,000 figure and scream about hedonic adjustments. Hedonic. Why didn't you just say hedonism? And this is what I was talking about with the mainstream media. If they told you 140,000 should be the poverty level, there's probably people, I'm not even reading the comments, but I'm sure there's people like, oh my God, so entitled, just work harder. You know, like this stupid bullshit. But this isn't coming from me. This, like, I've been barking up this tree for a fucking century, man. You know, I'm an old soul. So I've been yelling about this for a while, but this is just some fucking market analysis guy on Substack that was like, oh shit, let me use my wonderful writing. He's a really good writer. I love how he writes. To break this down. And he even says in the beginning of this article, this should be apolitical. There should be like an apolitical, like he thought this was like an apolitical fucking thing, you know, the poverty level, you know. It's very political. It's meant to keep you fucking uninformed, overworked, and underpaid. And it's funny because the mainstream media would scream kicking, like, you know, like a little kid fucking getting dragged out of a restaurant. But it's true. It's just true. And we're all experiencing it. Even if you're above this level, this is why I've said hit subscribe and notification bell. When the New York Times, I think it was, they created the term, or it was the Wall Street Journal, they created the new term, rich session, like a recession for rich people. And they were like, even people making 6 figures are feeling this. And it's like, You're almost there, guys. You're almost there. Almost there. You're getting there. Heck, I will scream at you about them. They are valid attempts to measure improvement in quality that we honestly value. I will tell you that comparing 1955 to 2024 is unfair because cars today have airbags, homes have air conditioning, and phones are supercomputers. I will argue that because of the quality of the good improved, the real price dropped. And I would be making a category error. We're not calculating the price of luxury. That's the other thing. I love when people are like, don't buy a new iPhone. You fucking need one to survive in this society. You cannot not have a smartphone. You're gonna go get a Nokia and fucking, actually, this is a good idea. Then you can tell your boss, sorry, I don't get email. Good luck. I don't have a computer and I got a Nokia. Maybe we should all do that. We're getting here. So he's even realizing this stuff. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall because it's like, no shit, I've been saying this for ages, man. Like, people need to catch on. People need to understand this because the quicker more people understand this and stop buying into the everyone's just lazy, what, including yourself, like you too, you're undervalued. Um, so it's good to see this guy reaching out to other rich people that are market evaluators and being like, oh shit, guys, if everyone goes into starvation mode, like, we don't have the stock market. Who else is going to invest? Are we just going to reinvest our own? Are we just going to stock buy back our own money that we bought the product? Like, oh shit, nothing works then. Oh, these morons. And I would be making a category error. To function in 1955 society, to have a job, call a doctor, and be a citizen, you needed a telephone line. That participation ticket cost $5 a month. Adjusted for standard inflation, that $5 should be $58 today. But you cannot run a household in 2024 on a $58 landline. We could try. I'm sure a politician's going to tell you just get a landline. God. To function today, to factor authenticate your bank account, to answer work emails, to check a child's school board portal, which is now digital only, you need a smartphone plan and home broadband. This is why I say nationalize, just fucking nationalize the Wi-Fi. We taxpayers paid for all the 5G stuff. Just nationalize it. Get it out of the hands of the profit makers. This is a utility. This isn't a luxury. Internet is not a luxury. Try getting a job without the internet. Go to a store and say, hey, I'd like to apply. And you know what they tell you? I've done it. Oh, you have to go online. You can scan a QR code. So good luck. That participation ticket for a family of four is not $58. It's $200 a month. The economists say, but look at the computing power you get. I say, look at the computing power I need. The utility I'm buying is connection to the economy. The price of that utility didn't just keep pace with inflation, it tripled relative to it. I ran this participation audit across the entire 1955 budget. I didn't ask, is the car better? I asked, what does it cost to get to work? Healthcare in 1955, Blue Cross family average was roughly $10 a month. This is the stuff that I'm like, this is fucking crazy, man. $10 a month. for your health insurance. Imagine that. 115 in today's dollars. 115 in today's dollar. Today, the average premium is over $1,600 a month. That's 14 times. We're not getting paid 14 times that. We should be. And anybody who says we shouldn't, you're a class traitor. Or unless you're a billionaire. If you're a billionaire, okay, I understand. You're trying to defend your wealth. But we coming for you. We're going to take it all back. And redistribute to the people who created that wealth for you. The rightful owners of it. Taxes, FICA. In 1955, Social Security tax was 2% on the first of 4,200 income. The maximum annual contribution was 84. Adjusted for inflation, that's about 960 a year. Today, family earning the median 80,000 pays over 6,000. That's 6 times inflation. Childcare in 1955, this cost was zero because the economy supported a single earner model. That is one of the most depressing lines in this. Childcare. Oh, the cost was zero because the economy. Nothing about, don't drop your misogyny in the comments. Nothing about, oh, women stayed home. No. And when Ben Shapiro or Timmy Pool or Patty Bet Davidstone, any of those assholes say it, you tell them, wrong language, jerk. Correct your tone with me. The economy supported a single earner model. Now, that's some hot damn language I like. I love this guy who wrote this. This is so good. The economy supported a single earner model. That's what we need, a single earner model in this economy. That's what I'll call it. When these people go, oh, socialism, I'll go, no, I just want the economy, like in the 50s, to support a single earner model. So take that in your pipes and chug it, or whatever you do with your pipes. So in 1955, the cost was zero because the economy supported a single earner model. Today, it's $32,000. That's an infinite increase in the cost of participation. An infinite increase. The only thing that actually tracked official CPI was food. Everything else, and I'd even question that. When did you write this? The inescapable fees required to hold a job, stay healthy, raise children, inflated at multiples of the official rate when considered on a participation basis. Participation, not as in a trophy, as in just to fucking live. Yes, these goods and services are better, but I wouldn't trade my 65-inch 4K mounted TV on the flat wall for a 25-inch CRT dominating my living room. But I don't have a choice either. I love that line. But I don't have a choice. The Valley of Death. Why 100,000 is the new poor. Oh, sorry. I'm reading a little too fast. Here we are. Once I established that 136,000 was the real break-even point, I ran the numbers on what happens to a family climbing the ladder towards that number. This is the fascinating thing. I've lived through this too. What I found explains the vibes of the economy better than any CPI print. Our entire safety net is designed to catch people at the very bottom, but it sets a trap for anyone trying to climb out. As income rises from 40 to 100,000, benefits disappear faster than wage increases. I call this the Valley of Death. Let's look at the transition for a family in New Jersey. The view from 35,000, official poor. At this income, the family's struggling, but the state provides a floor. They qualify for Medicaid. They receive SNAP. They receive heavy child care subsidies. The deficits are real but capped. The cliff, 45,000, the healthcare trap. Family earns a $10,000 raise. Good news. No. At this level, parents lose the Medicaid. Suddenly, they got to pay premiums and deductible. So your income gained 10,000, but your expense increases 10,500. You're poorer than before. The effective tax on this mobility is over 100%. The cliff at 65,000. This is the breaker. The family works harder, get promoted. They now solidly working class, but roughly at this level, so child subsidies vanish. Pay the full market rate for daycare. Income gain is 8,000 less than the expense increase. Net result, total collapse. When you run the net income numbers, a family over 100,000 is effectively in a worse monthly financial position than a family earning 40,000. At 40,000, you're drowning, but the state gives you a life vest. At 100,000, you're drowning, but the state says you're a high earner and ties an anchor to your ankle called market price. In option terms, the government has sold the call option to the poor, but they've rigged this gamma game. As you move closer to the money, self-sufficiency, the delta collapses. For every dollar effort you put in, the system confiscates 70 to 100 cents. No rational trader would take that trade, yet we wonder why labor force participation lags. It's not a mystery, it's math. This is what I was going over. Sorry. I need a page turner for me. I love what he says, it ain't a mystery, it's math. Nobody's lazy. It's you're trapped. Unless you hit over 200,000, you're fucked in that zone. And I hear about it, and I work with people, and I know people, and I experience this. I've lived through this. I've went from a 35,000 earner to over 100,000 earner. And I've witnessed each one of these things. Maybe that's why I knew this decades ago. And this market trader who's wealthy, clearly, is like mathematically figuring it out. When you've lived each stage and you're like, well, what the fuck is going on now? Like, I'm making more money, but I'm poorer than before. You understand. You understand clearly. The physics of ruin. Let's get to that right down here. Physics of ruin. The most dangerous lie of modern economics is mean reversion. Economists assume that if a family falls into debt or bankruptcy, they can simply save their way back to the average. I love how economists don't participate in the economy, but they study it and then question these things. It's like, go fucking talk to people, dude. Get out of your gated communities and come talk to us. They're confusing volatility with ruin. Volatility. Falling below the line isn't like cooling water. It's like freezing it. It's a phase change. When a family hits the barrier, eviction, bankruptcy, or default, they don't just have less money, they become economically inert. They're barred from the credit system, often for 7 to 10 years. They're barred from private rental market, landlord screens. They're barred from employment in sensitive sectors. In physics, it takes massive latent heat to turn ice back into water. In economics, the energy required to reverse a bankruptcy is exponentially higher than the energy required to pay a bill. The 140,000 line matters because it's a buffer against the phase change. If you are earning 80 to 79, 80,000 with 79 in fixed costs, you're not stable. You're super cooled. One shock, a transmission failure, a broken arm, and you freeze instantly. The lockdown arbitrage. Proof of concept. If you need proof of that the cost of participating, the cost of working is the primary driver of this fragility, look at the COVID lockdowns. In April 2020, the U.S. personal savings hit a historic 33%. Economists attribute this to the stimulus check, but the math tells a different story. During the lockdown, the valley of death was temporarily filled. Childcare suspended, kids were home. Commuting suspended, kids were, or you didn't have to drive. Work, lunches, clothes suspended. For a medium family, the participation cost in the economy is roughly 50,000 a year. When the economy stopped, the tax was repealed. Family earning 80,000 suddenly felt rich, not because they earned more, but because the leak in the bucket was plugged. For many, income actually rose to that 600 thanks to that 600 a week unemployment boost. But for even those whose income stayed flat, they felt rich because many costs were avoided. Bosses want you to go back to work because they got rent to pay. You know, they took a lease out on the building. You don't want to go because they're not paying you your drive time, and all that shit costs money. You know the wear and tear on a car over a year of work? Your company ain't paying for that, even though they probably are for the CEO. When the world was reopened, the cost returned, but now inflated by 20%. The rage we feel today. Also, I want to make one note on the economy thing. Gary's Economics, link down in the description. He highlights that in all the spending during the pandemic, it wasn't, people were still keeping the economy going. We still had to buy food. We still had to do this. We still had to do that. And the only people who turned that money into assets and wealth were the top wealth percentages, the generational wealth people, the people who are already comfortable. The rest of us didn't. I used to make the joke, oh, everybody's retiring on this. And they still wanted the poorest people to fucking not have, stuff for food. Oh, it's such a propaganda piece. The mainstream media will not read this article. I dare you to, Barry Weiss. Okay. Now inflated for 20%. The rage we feel today is the hangover from that brief moment where the American option was momentarily back in the money. Those with formal training in economics have dismissed these concerns by and large. Inflation is the rate of change in the price of the level. These poor, deluded souls were outraged at the price level. Tut tut, can't have that deflation now, can we? We promise you'll like that, even less. But the price level does mean something too. If you are below the actual poverty line, you're suffering constant deprivation, and a higher price level means you can get even less in aggregate. The politics of drowning. I think I cut to the end of this. So, anyways, this mathematical valley explains the rage we see in the American electorate, specifically the animosity the working poor, middle class, feel toward the actual poor and immigrants. Economists and politicians look at this anger and call it racism or lack of empathy. They are missing the mechanism. Altruism is a function of surplus. That's not fucking not true. It's easy to be charitable when you have excess capacity. It's impossible to be charitable when you're fighting for the last bruised banana. That's not true. What I just read. This is obviously a guy who's very removed. And I don't know his group of friends, but Elon Musk isn't fucking, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. Look at their actions. Altruism isn't from surplus. Those guys are fucking hedonists. We talk about this stuff all the time. We highlight these things. Elon Musk is meddling in elections to, save his ass from jail. Mark Zuckerberg is stealing Native Hawaiians' lands in Kauai. Look it up. I've talked about it here. Like, these dudes aren't helping, If there was altruism in surplus, these guys with more than enough would be like, oh, the workers, should have money so they can spend it at my places. And they refuse to do that. Though poor people, I do know the working poor are usually the first to fucking be like, I know I only got 20 in my account, but what do you, get yourself something. Get yourself something. They're always the kindest. The family earning 65 grand, the family that just lost their subsidies and paying 32 for daycare and 12 for healthcare, is hyper aware. The family earning 30,000 getting subsidized food, rent, childcare. That statement is true. You know, and that's why you see the people, the MAGAs get mad at people that are getting SNAP. You know, oh, I work so hard for so little. They shouldn't be able to eat. They should starve. You know, and it's this fucking like, who are you angry at? You're angry at people needing to eat to live? God damn, man. It's a weird way to live. Okay. They see the neighbor at the grocery store using an EBT card while they put items back on the shelf. They see the immigrant family receiving emergency housing support while they face eviction. They're not seeing poverty. They're seeing people getting for free the exact same things they're working 60 hours a week and barely afford. And even worse, if they don't see these things firsthand, they're being shown them. Fox News. The anger isn't about goods, it's about a breach of contract. The American deal was that effort, security. Effort brought your hope strike closer. But because the real poverty line is 140,000, effort no longer yields security or progress. It brings risk, exhaustion, and debt. And when you're drowning and you see the lifeguard throw a life vest to the person treading water next to you, a person who isn't swimming as hard as you don't feel happiness for them. You feel a rage at the lifeguard. Again, I know that exists, but I refuse to believe it's most people. I refuse to believe that because I just couldn't get mad at somebody eating not to die. You know, and I'd like to think everybody hit subscribe with the notification bell. Everybody that has hit subscribe, I would think believes that same thing. And they're focused upwards. Why is this happening? Who's making all the rules? Who's profited off this? Who's benefited from this system forever? Who's defending the status quo? Who's not sharing this information that the poverty line is actually 140,000? That's who you need to focus on. The optical illusion of prosperity. If you need visual proof of the benchmark error, look at the charts that economists love to share on social media that prove that vibes are wrong and the economy is great. You've likely seen this chart. It shows the American middle class is shrinking. Not because people are getting poorer, but because they're moving up into the 150,000 bracket. The economists look at this and cheer. Look, they say, 1967, only 5% of families made over 150,000 adjusted for inflation. Now 34% do. We're a nation of rising aristocrats. And then he shows this chart down here. But look at that chart through the lens of real poverty. The cost of basic self-sufficiency for a family of four is 140,000. Then that top light blue tier isn't upper class. It's the survival line. You understand that? Economists will show you this and say, look, nobody back then, and I've even heard people say this, look, nobody's making 150,000 back in 1963. Ooh, 34% are now. And when you understand that the poverty line has been manipulated and co-opted by people who are defending the status quo, and you understand that the real poverty line is 140,000, wow, the people making 150,000 are finally not starving. The chart doesn't show that 34% of Americans are rich. It shows that only 34% of Americans have managed to escape deprivation. It shows that the, quote, middle class, the dark blue section between 50 and 150, roughly 45% of the country, is actually the working poor. These are the families earning enough to lose their benefits, but not enough to pay for childcare and rent. They're the ones trapped in the valley of death. But the commentary tells us something different. Quote, Americans earn more for several reasons. The first, that neoliberal economic policies worked as intended. In the last 50 years, there have been big increases in productivity, sold GDP growth, and since the 1980s, low and predictable inflation. All this helped making the market Americans richer. Neoliberal economic policies worked as intended. Read that again. With Posawid, the purpose of a system is what it does in mind. The chart isn't measuring prosperity, it's measuring inflation in the non-discretionary basket. It tells us that to live in 1967 middle-class life in 2024, you'd need a wealthy income. Hear that? To live a middle-class 1967 life in 2024, you need a wealthy income. That's $200,000 to be middle class. And then there's the chart, the shield used by every defender of the status quo. Poverty has collapsed to 11%. The policies worked as intended. But remember, Molly Oshansky, the chart measuring the percentage of Americans who cannot afford a minimum food diet multiplied by 3. It's not measuring who could afford rent, which is up 4 times the relevant wages. It's measuring who can afford childcare, which is up infinite percent. It's measuring starvation. Of course, the line is going down. We're an agricultural superpower who opened our markets to even cheaper foreign foods. Shrimp from Vietnam, tilapia from don't ask. Food is cheap, but life is expensive. When you see the charts, don't let them gaslight you. They're using broken rulers to measure a broken house. The top chart proves that you need 150,000 to make it. The bottom chart proves they refuse to admit it. The lie. So that's the trap, the real poverty line, the threshold where a family can afford housing, healthcare, childcare, transportation without lying on means-tested benefits isn't 31,000. The poverty line in America is not 31,000. I know they'll tell you that. I know the government that won't release the jobs report, who canceled everything, fired the statisticians, isn't going to tell you this. And the mainstream media certainly isn't going to dare to be honest. It's 140,000. Most of my readers will have cleared this threshold. My parents never really did, but I was born lucky. Brains, beauty, height, parents that encouraged and sacrificed for education, and American citizenship. But most of my readers are now seeing this trap for their children. And the system is designed to prevent you from escaping. Every dollar you earn climbing from 40 to 100 triggers benefit losses that exceed your income gains. You are literally poorer for working harder. You are literally poor for working harder. Whoa, nobody wants to work anymore. Hold on. It's a trap. Thank you, Star Wars. Next week, I'll show you why that's wrong. And then we can start the discussion of how to rebuild. Because we can. We can. Hope and change. The wealth you're counting on, the retirement accounts, the home equity, the nest egg that's supposed to make this all worthwhile, is just as fake as the poverty line. But the humans behind that wealth are real. All right. That was the article by Michael Green. Really good. Really good. I hope you read it. I also included, what is this? Fair Share Propaganda, Survivor's Guide to Earth down in the description. Arm yourself with this information. Arm yourself with this information. This is good stuff, man. Good stuff. Good stuff here. Good stuff. This is the other website I included with the Substack. Comment on the current events. I'll just let this speak for itself. Let me use MAGA logic and agree with them for a thought experiment. The National Guard shooter is Afghan national. CIA agent and granted immunity or something by Trump. So we must deport all Afghans and Muslims and stop integration? Okay. The Trump failed. We're 2 white men. White men are the #1 domestic in America. So deport all whites? There's my commentary on the latest news. I hope your Thanksgiving was not more expensive. I truly do. I want you to do well. I don't give a shit what hat you wear. I don't. I wear a Celtics hat because my mom used to take me to one Celtics game every year for my birthday. And I treasure those memories. But we are no longer a single earning income economy. We learned that today. We are no longer a single earner income economy. Use that. Utilize this information. That's why I gave it to you. That's why I said use your brains. Wait. Bandito's here. Crush is still here. Okay. Who else is here? So I haven't read any of the comments. So MAGA, if you were having a hissy fit, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't worry. Bandito says MAGA is still not sending their best. Yeah, well, the guardians of perverts, you know. But hold on. If Crush is here. Crush. Look at that. Look at that little boy. He loves his mama. He was thankful for his mama today. He was thankful for his mama. And the witch's cat, I couldn't find her. So my apologies. I wanted to show you the little witch cat. The little familiar. But, you know, just please, please, guys. Please just understand, it's a trap. Understand that there's so much to be grateful for, and there's a way out of this. You just got to stop listening to the mainstream media. You got to stop letting the people who will defend the status quo, defend the thing that is making them uber rich, trillionaires, and they'll fight real hard. They'll go to war for this. You got to stop listening to them. I'm telling you. And I'm telling you this stuff as somebody who's experienced what he was writing about. I've experienced all those phases. I brought myself up from nothing to making well into the six figures. And then I lost it all. Private equity came in, bought out most of my industry, and, made it turmoil. Just devastated it. So I'm here with you. And with that said, hit subscribe. If you learned something, if I challenged your thought process, if I challenged your status quo mindset, because I'm always trying to value tane, I'm just trying to value tane you. And I'm trying to remind everybody to stay grateful, because anything's possible. Everything's made up. You can manifest whatever you want, You could do it. You ever done that before? I've done it before. And I'm doing it again, so. Oh, hold on. What was that? Shout out to the Vibe Coach. Thank you, Crush. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Oh, God. Bandito, if you want to mute the people saying it's a republic, not a democracy, these fucking morons. Like, there's some, who was it? It was Tad Stormer. I don't even think I'm going to find the video right now. Just so you know, a republic is a form of government where a country is considered public matter. I'm fucking tired of people being like, oh, hey man, it's a republic, not a democracy. There is, like, what is it? Walk your point out further. Walk your point out all the way that you're trying to get there. Stop trying to use these clickbait words of fucking people that most likely in like Fox News or these hard right maggots use, because it's such a dumb argument. Oh, so you do know it's a republic. It's not a democracy. Walk your point out all the way. What are you trying to say? Elon Musk should fucking be king? What is it? It's such a dumb. I'm tired of hearing that shit, because republic and democracy are basically interchangeable. We're not a vote for vote, one for one representative democracy, but the fact that people say shit like that drives me bananas, because it's dumb. Oh, I've triggered some people. There are some stupid people in the world. Someone said, I don't even want to name them. Someone said, show us the Pledge of Allegiance. It says democracy. I forgot. Just so everybody's aware, we are only a country defined by the Pledge of Allegiance. So whatever is in it, and if it's amended or we change the Pledge of Allegiance, like if we said, I pledge allegiance to the socialist states of America, we are technically then a socialist state. Okay? So I forgot. Jesus Christ. Too many kids on YouTube. I would like to think they're children. I know my main demographic is about my age, but I pray to God nobody my age is that stupid. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at all these sensitive maggots. Guys, if you're offended, because Donald Trump has trashed the economy, Epstein's best friend, protector of pedos, you've lived your lives the wrong way, according to Jesus. That's Jesus saying it. Jesus, man, he don't like you. He don't like Trump. He don't like you. But please check out the links down below, okay? You just go fucking somewhere else, Trumpers. He's not. The only thing he was good at was being a creep to women and girls, a lot of girls, and he bragged about that. And it's sad, but if you're so proud to defend it, you should go do a live stream and talk about all the magnificent things he's done. Maybe you get a feature on Fox. But for the rest of us, please check out this article. Wait, where's the... Oh, that's right. I didn't get the top of it. the article by Michael Green, the Substack. I included it down below. You can read it for yourself. So please, please read that. Share it with family. Share it with friends. This is good information. And it's apolitical. He says, I thought it was apolitical. Oh, it's very political. You know, for the Nepo baby CEO, failed casino owners, and their like. This is very political. You know, they want you to blame the poorest people. They don't want you to look at the people with all the money, making all the rules, you know, breaking all the laws. They don't want you to look at them. They want you to be focused elsewhere. And some of you will gladly do it, you know. You're happy to be obedient. Here we're not. Here we're going to refute that and say people shouldn't be suffering. Our neighbors are more important than the status quo, and shit has gone wrong. So Bandito, Crush, I appreciate you guys. And to all the new subscribers, there's a ton of them. I appreciate you guys joining the coalition, joining the community, joining the family. If you haven't hit subscribe, I'm Rob. I go live every weekday, even on Thanksgiving. Even when you don't celebrate, because people got to work, you know. God bless my wife, man. She works so hard. And we should have it where, you know, it shouldn't be like this. People shouldn't be working so hard for so little. I remember a time when they didn't have to. I remember a time when we were a single earning income economy. I love that phrase. I love that Michael Green kicked that phrase off. We're going to keep using that from here on out. So much love to you guys. Thank you, Crush. Appreciate you. Great stream tonight, great chat, and a great article. The reason I linked it down below is because I want you to take that article and share it with somebody. Someone who will value it, somebody who has challenged this, somebody who maybe is unaware of it. The more we can spread this information, the better. So share this, share this, share this. All right, guys, much love, much respect. Be good to one another. And remember, just even if you feel like you got nothing to be thankful for, be thankful that you could be with your family and just take that 5-minute break to get the fuck away from them. You know, we've all felt that. You're like, I've been in this house for an hour. I got to get out of here. Anybody need to go smoke a butt? Be grateful for that. All right, guys. Have a good one. Peace.